back with the latest in news and entertainment. I'm KJ, and let me introduce you all to the rest of my co-hosts. We have Shelly E, we have Yana, and Xandria. We She should be on. She may come on at the middle or sometime during the programming. But we are happy to be back after a little hiatus. Some people have vacation, so really excited to bring you all the trending and hot news and entertainment. So we are starting tonight's show, if you guys can see, with our special guest, Pless Jones, co-founder of the Equality Equation. How's it going tonight, Pless?
Pretty good, no complaints. How are you
Oh,
guys?
excellent, excellent. All right. So before we begin with this interview, we please, as you guys know, join the conversation by leaving a comment on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We will check the comments periodically throughout the show. And don't just comment, subscribe. Subscribe to our social media so you always know when we post new content. Check us out on the web at www.metroconservativemedia.com for up to date information. Again, we are a necessary voice in news and entertainment. All right, ladies, so let's set it off. Okay, so again, before we get started with you, class, I have to mention the Kyle Rittenhouse case. We are following it closely. The jury ended today, which marks the second day of deliberations without reaching a verdict. Please watch us next week as we bring commentary about the trial's outcome. All right, so as I said at the top of the show, we have with us tonight Pless Jones. Pless and his wife, Elizabeth Jones, started the Equality Equation. It is a company that facilitates economic equality for disadvantaged communities by creating mutually beneficial development projects where government, nonprofit, private industry, and investors are comfortable with projected outcomes politically, socially, and economically. All right, so glad to have you with us tonight, class.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So, in a nutshell, can you just tell us what do you all do at Equality Equation?
So, what we attempt to do is to change the trajectory of blighted and distressed neighborhoods by injecting economic operations that pencil out financially for investors. So, what that essentially means is that the quickest way to mitigate the wealth disparity is through home ownership, but you have to affect the economics of a community in order to do that. So what we do is we found three economic operations that can be subsidized by federal, state, and local government, which are health and wellness, workforce development and education, and sports and recreation. And we can begin those projects within a community, then we can virally grow the thing that we want to affect most, which is home ownership. But what we try to do is do that without having to kind of perpetuate the diaspora of moving distressed and blighted citizens from place to place as, companies come in or developers come in and want to make a change. We take an extra step in really trying to keep the legacy citizen in place by injecting these economic operations within the community.
Okay. Okay. And so what type of economic operations then do you put in?
So they're health and wellness,
Mhm.
workforce development and education, and sports and recreation. We try to put all three of those in development. If we land with one, then that works, as we're doing in Northeast Baltimore at Bel Air Road and Sinclair. We have a workforce development facility that we're building, that we started the demolition on. And the way that wins is that through the kind of supportive relationships with, the community, educational institutions, and then the support of the municipality helps to make that work. When investors and funders see that their support in the neighborhood and that the pro forma pans out, and that we do the education piece by partnering with post-secondary institutions, and that allows people that even may not have a GED to be eligible for federal Pell Grants and eligible for state assistance. And in addition to that, we partner with the employment services of a municipality, and we get all the grants and subsidies and resources that they allocate per citizen, and we bring it to our facility. And that's how we're able to kind of pan out the economy of that operation.
Good. Shelly?
Yeah, thanks, class. So I have a couple of questions, or at least a two-part question. I don't understand. I need it in layman's terms. What is workforce development, and how is it supposed to help Baltimoreans obtain jobs and skills?
Right. So that is a great question, because when we hear workforce development, it's become such a buzzword, such a jargon statement. And people use that because now there's about to be a wave of everyone doing workforce development. So what we consider workforce development is to be able to create livable wages for citizens in distressed and blighted communities. And our secret is that we partner with the post-secondary institutions, and we inject certificate-based programs into their curricula. And while the person is matriculating, or whether or not they do want to end up with an associate degree or a bachelor's degree, we integrate these certificate-based programs into their curricula. And these people can come in, as opposed to going 2 years, 18 months for a program, we can go 6, 12 weeks that they can do a program in and come out with the skills that the employers of the city have, or that are really needed. So we take the high in-demand jobs based on the Employment Commission, and we break down. And what my wife does is she was in the Federal Bureau of Prisons for 13 years, and she spent her last 7 years writing curricula for the Federal Bureau of Prisons for 200 institutions. So, using her understanding and her expertise, we were able to kind of flip that, outside the gates. And that's what we essentially do. So we go to the higher or the biggest employers in the city, or the people that have workforce development needs. We understand what they need. We ask them what they want in an employee. And then Liz, my wife, kind of reverse engineers what they want and write into a curriculum that has national credentials. So everything that we do has national credentials, and that's the difference between us and most people who claim workforce development. We're in a licensed assessment center, and we're a licensed credentialing agency with NCCER and now MSSC.
So like a job corps, Is that what it is? Like Job Corps?
No, it's not like a job corps. It's not like a job corps.
Well, as I understand it, as a training, so basically you look at what the employer needs, and then you develop a program to get people prepared to apply for those jobs and be successful at those jobs. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And so how successful has this program has been, and what some of the challenges that you have faced?
Well, we're working it with the DC government right now. We're doing programs down there. So it's been very successful. I think 100%, my wife is here, 100% of those 3 cohorts that we've done, all of those people have gotten placed with Washington Gas. So, and their subcontractor. So we have had a lot of success. We're working in Syracuse with Syracuse Build as well. Everybody loves the merit of what we're doing because it's never been done. And we show success, in Washington, D.C. right now.
Mm-hmm. So you're working in Washington, D.C. right now, mostly?
Yeah. The Department of Employment Services with the city of D.C. And that's the key, having those relationships. And D.C. just happen to be a little easier than Baltimore, because the people there are ready, to kind of really take a shot at solving the issues or solving the problems with unemployment. And the biggest challenge is just that, being able to navigate the politics of any municipality. Syracuse is great because we have even as the mayor there being he's a great person. He wants to kind of mend the city and bring people together. So he works well with us, and we've met with him several times when we took the trip to Syracuse. Just really the biggest challenge is navigating the politics because of the transient nature of politics. When it's hot, when there's campaigning going on, then everybody says and do the right thing, and everybody wants a shot in front of a building coming down. But, as that kind of wanes out, or we get a little bit further away from campaign season, then, you kind of see the support kind of wane a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a few questions, and hey, I think you'll find that the politicians with the R will be very supportive of this initiative. So I mean, I love what you're talking about. So one, how do people engage with this, right? How do you find the applicants, or how do they find you? How do, I guess, partnerships engage, right? Are you reaching out to companies and saying, hey, will you get involved with this? And then on the third piece, what are some of the specific challenges that you faced in dealing with, whether it's policies or the local politics that are kind of a hindrance?
Well, I think the challenges are just the nature of politics. Where especially in a city like Baltimore, where it's just kind of dominated by the D's, and once you get past campaign season, then you find it a little hard for people that keep their promises to say that we're going to do this. And the beautiful thing about the Equality Equation Project, it's only moral support that we need. The investors, the bankers just want to see that, yeah, you do have a relationship with the city, or you do have a relationship with the mayor's office of employment development. That's all they want to see. We haven't asked the city for $1. We haven't asked, anyone for anything other than your moral support that you agree that what we're working on will help the city. And that's what we do.
Wait. If I could jump in there just a little bit. They expect your votes. I mean, we live in a predominantly Democratic city, and the areas that you're investing in are predominantly Democratic, probably predominantly Black, and so they automatically expect for the vote. So during campaign season, since we vote predominantly Democratic, they're right there. But after the season, after they've been put in office, as we're seeing across the country, these areas that are predominantly Democratic don't really care about it because they already got our votes. That's it. They don't, and they know they're going to get our votes next time. So there's no point.
Well, yeah, I agree with that.
What would you? Sorry, and just to add, where are they falling through specifically? Like, what can we hold them accountable to that would be like, hey, you guys, you promised this towards this initiative. Where is it?
Well, to the Equality Equation Project is this execution of contracts that we have drafted and developed based on the discussions that we had with them. That's it for us. It doesn't stop anything. It just gives the lenders or the bankers a pause because you got a contract in your documents that just hasn't been executed. So that's where personally for me where it kind of lays at. But other than that, the project was built because we understand the nature of politics. It's cyclical. And if people, people think it's cyclical, but it's also linear, meaning that, now when people are consistently seeing that year after year or campaign cycle or election cycle after election cycle, that people aren't changing, things aren't changing, our status isn't changing, it's getting worse. I mean, just this week, all the horrors that you hear about in the city is terrible. And I think again that cyclical and linear nature of just life is going to allow people to start really looking behind the curtain and understand what's really going on. And that's on both sides. I ride the fence. I consider myself independent, and I think that
if I can jump in right there, Ples, because respectfully, thanks for being on the show. But as I recall, you had some pretty bad things to say about the producer here and people on the show. And so I'm wondering, what's the change of heart now? Because you were riding hard for whoever you're riding for, and now you're on the show. So I'm just trying to figure out, you ride the fence. So we don't really trust people who ride the fence. So we need to figure out what side you're on right now.
I'm not here to get your trust. One, I think that when you talk about when we met, because Giovanni invited me, and we've had kind of really cordial conversations offline and outside of TV and so forth. So he asked me to come on. So
but online is a totally different story from what I remember.
You're guessing at what you think is going on. One, but I think that the young ladies, because I remember all four of the young.
I'm not going by anything. I'm not guessing anything. I'm going by what I saw, what I read with my own two eyes.
I don't think you were there with that night we were at the town hall. And I think the discussion got heated with everyone, and we talked to each other in the same way. It was all heated. those young ladies that are here are very strong-willed, and they gave me exactly what I was giving them. So when you're having a conversation like that, it kind of gets that way. But what I'm saying now, they invited me on, and everything seems very cordial until you came on late, and then now you're gonna pop off with,
No, but I'm a host on the show. You're a guest, so what you're not gonna do?
Yeah, you got to be here on time.
But you gotta make up your mind. That's not the point. No, you gotta make up your mind what side you want to ride. Like, don't say one thing and say something about our producers, and then come on the show and say something else.
Now what you have to do now is say exactly what I said about your producers, so you can stop using it. Because this is my talk with Giovanni all the time.
What you say?
No, I'm asking you to say, because you know what I said, or you assume that you understand what I said. Yes, ma'am.
Can I jump in now? I want to go back. I want to go back to Plus. You mentioned your Baltimore site, your East Baltimore site. What exactly is supposed to be happening there?
We're supposed to be building a facility for workforce development there.
And how's that coming along so far?
Well, we're doing the demolition. It's a huge site. It's about a 3-acre site with it's a deep hole. So we have to kind of fill in the holes as we kind of demo the building. So it's been more than what we expected, but we're continuing to work.
Okay. So I'm asking you because I've driven past that site a number of times, and when I've driven past there on a weekend, a weekday, so I wanted to get an idea, and it just doesn't look like it's being cleaned up or developed. Let me say that. It doesn't look like. So I was just wondering, what is the process? And second part to that is that I know that you have the workforce development piece as part of your business model, but the jobs that are being provided or given to the people or shown to the people who are going through the class, they're not in Baltimore. So how is it benefiting Baltimoreans?
Well, we're aiming to come and bring the programs to Baltimore. We actually just won a RFP with MOED that will be starting in January that we would do at a temporary location. So this is going to benefit Baltimore once we spend our money to demolish, which is what we're doing now, and construct the building. So that's what will happen. That's how they would benefit. We will benefit by bringing the programs, bringing the wraparound services that we will then put in the facility.
So let me ask you this, if I could. I want to just jump in. If I could, yeah, go ahead. I want to take it back to what T did say, because that's actually something important, and definitely we're not trying to be combative on here. We do thank you for coming on to the show, but I do want to get your opinion on just working across party lines with Democrats and Republicans. Now, as we know, this is because you have said you have been kind of antagonistic against Republicans. I remember when you were on the show a couple months ago with Giovanni, and you gave him a really hard time about being a Republican, and you said you didn't really like dealing with Republicans. So have you tried to change of heart?
No, I never said that. This is what I actually said on the show. I said if you take classism and racism out of the GOP, then every black person is a Republican. That's what I said. That doesn't sound antagonistic.
What?
So,
I want to
if you take classism
and racism are
out of the GOP, not locally.
May I ask a question about equity and basically?
I didn't understand. I'm sorry. You had some background before you started. I'm sorry.
I've been thinking, and now that you brought up classism and racism, like that's something that's been on my mind about Democrats, because when I was looking up, I actually saw on your LinkedIn page, I think you linked a YouTube video to Alice Kennedy, the Baltimore City Department of Housing and Community Development. And this person talked about, she made a speech, and it seems like probably you agreed with what she was saying. And she was mentioning things like equity and righting the wrongs of slavery and things like that. So, I mean, it seems like it's the Democrats who always bring up these kind of things, when they bring up slavery, they bring up racism, and we as Republicans, and in fact, I just want to say to you that a lot of us not a lot of us, but I mean, some of us have been Democrats, or we voted Democrat in the past, because we do also want to make sure that everyone is equal, but under the law, and that we all have the same opportunities. But what we have seen is that Democrats they end up using this equity thing, and which what it looks to me is that it's discriminatory towards people who are not Black or who are not people of color. So what do you say about that? It seems like the Democrats are mostly obsessed with race and class.
I think that Alice Kennedy is the real deal. If you scratch, you may scratch the surface, but look at her background and the household she was raised in. She's a beautiful soul. So for someone like her to get up and admit from that position as at the time she was the acting commissioner of the housing authority, she's just referenced everything that we look down in history and understand. We understand that the FHA had a lot to do with housing discrimination. We know that the answer or the rebut to we got our hands caught in discriminating was housing projects, and we know how that turns out. So I think she was speaking of those things from her perspective, as it comes from her being the now full commissioner for the Department of Housing and Community Development, is that she knows from her space that there has been this discrimination against Black people. If you just talk about redlining, you talk about FHA, where they would not give Black people mortgages or mortgage insurance, enabling them to get mortgages for homes. So I think she was speaking from her space, and she's definitely the real deal. She doesn't wane on that.
Nobody's denying that. No one's denying housing discrimination did occur. No one, of course, is denying slavery occurred. But how do we fix those things going forward? We can't go back. We don't have a time machine and can take us back to the past to do anything. So how do we fix those things going forward? And how does your company do that?
I think Shelly and Yana have a great point that, you can't keep throwing stuff in people's face. So I had a government teacher in high school that kind of put it to me like this. Just imagine a racetrack. If you get someone a head start, you'll never catch up to them if you're running the same way, the same pace. So that's where the kind of affirmative action came in. What we found out, or what we understand now, is that thing, even as we look at money that has been allocated, I think what a lot of the frustration is with the R's are that we pump all this money into this affirmative action, into this trying to be able to make things of what y'all call equal equity, and it doesn't work, because in both sides, the developers and the people that are really know how to get to the money that's supposed to trickle down to the communities that need it. Only a portion of the money gets to the community, and it's never enough to effectuate wellness in the community.
Is equity good for business? Like, you're a business person, as I understand. So this idea of equity and government, choosing who deserves the, let's say, the project or the contract based on their race. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that doesn't happen because what we do, we competitively bid contracts. Nobody, I think that's kind of a fallacy that affirmative action or minority participation just places someone into a contract. That's not true. Every state contract, every city contract is competitively bid. Where the fallacy is that there are people, there are groups of people, and that their color doesn't matter because they're across the board, because they always need someone in a minority space, even as they kind of siphon off public dollars for their own pockets. So it's not white or Black, it's not DOR, it is corruption, it is just a system that allows for certain groups of people, not D's, not R's, not white, not Black, to manipulate the system in order to siphon off dollars that we pay as taxpaying citizens to help effectuate wellness, because we as Americans all want to see everyone do well.
No, I don't. I actually don't want to see everyone do well. I actually don't. But this is based on what you're saying. Baltimore is predominantly Black. It is predominantly Democrat. And I'm just going to say you in general, or developers, people in your position, it's not benefiting us. The contracts that you all have, you just said it yourself, the money is not coming down to the people. So what is it that you do that regular Baltimoreans can't seem to do? And we still don't benefit from it, yet we are paying the tax dollars.
Again, I think you're missing the point. And me as a developer, I spend my own money to develop because I am not in that club. Me as a contractor, I competitively bid, meaning that the state or local government puts out an RFP, and then the best price wins. That's where I make my money.
When do Baltimoreans win? When do we benefit from your or developers? When do we benefit from the taxpayers that are going to support the contract or the development projects that you all have? When do we benefit? Because they're developing buildings they're not being used, or they're sitting there and doing nothing. When do we get a return on our investment?
Right. So let me make sure I keep kind of placing myself outside of being at what you're saying as a developer, because I am not in the club. I am somebody that, naively thought that I can come and make a difference, and I'll do it my way. I'll set a model that allows me to spend my own money and to develop into this. And all I need, and how my wife and I develop this model is, all I need is moral support, meaning that all the banks want to see is that you partner with an educational institution or municipality or an employment services. So to your question is, I don't know. I think that what all of this stuff is designed as is to keep you and I bickering about who's right and who's wrong. I'm beyond that. And maybe this is what I think maybe this kind of enlightened conversation that I had with Giovanni was that we kind of got an understanding that, and again, my problem, I say this to Giovanni 1,000 times, is just the sensational side of what is going on. Now we have it on both D side and on the R side that we all are just kind of pumping up. We want people to understand what we're saying and what we're talking. We want to be right. When all the time,
so is that why you're here now to be the bridge to bridge the gap between the D's and the R's? Is that why you're here on the show now?
That's not what I'm here. So you got to come on time to really get the energy of what we're doing. You can't come late to the show and then try to show this. No, that's not
what they do. From the actual answer. I just asked you a question.
Y'all gotta mute Mike. I can't hear anybody's question.
Because I get where you're coming from, where I've always considered myself an independent too, and I tend to lean more right than left, right? Mm-hmm. I agree with what you're saying, where the issue is not necessarily, it's not black versus white, it's not necessarily right versus left. There's a level of corruption coming from other places, right? So how do we get that message across? Because I do feel whenever I hear about classism and racism, in my experience, it's always coming from the left. I've never experienced that from anybody on the right. I don't know any racist Republican. I don't see it it's always coming from the left. So how do we change the message where people stop making everything about race, about and they focus on where the corruption really is?
I think, again, economics, that's the only thing we can do. But we, as people that aren't in that club, that are allowed to kind of siphon and tap into state and federal, or really state resources, we have to somehow figure out, like T was trying to say, create that bridge between, hey, we can't allow them or the corrupt or the whatever the top of the food chain is in this city or any other city. We can't allow them to kind of manipulate us, keep us at each other, while the whole time they're just, skimming off the top on the back of the citizens who in Baltimore, pay a significant amount of taxes to the government, and nothing is changing. So I think, I think what we have to do in our individual spaces, which is what we do, find a community that needs the help, that's willing to work with you, get all of the resources you need, get all of the things that you generally need, community support, support of the, again, in our case, the educational institution, get support of the employment services department, and you partner and you try to effectuate wellness in your little bitty space, and then maybe somebody else will do it on the other side of town, and somebody else will do it here, and it doesn't have to be D or R. We just have to kind of figure out in our own space what can we do to effectuate wellness in the spaces that we dwell in. So I think it's only, even with racism and so forth. I think only God is going to fix it. I don't think it's going to happen before his return. So and that's my position. So what I do once I've realized that is just get into my own space and figure out how I can effectuate wellness for whatever's in my circle.
All right. Well, on that note, we will have to wrap it up. But like you said, I definitely agree with that. And, as a native Baltimorean living here all my life, still in Baltimore City, we do want to see change. And I just hope, Republicans can have a chance to earn those votes and make a difference within the city.
The time is now. If you're all going to strike, the time is now. Because the time is low. I mean, everybody is kind of really weary of politics. And if you come with a good game and not, again, I tell Giovanni this all the time, without the sensationalism and make your points, because even I talked to Giovanni after I saw him on a national TV show. And I said, man, your points are great. And he must have been not nervous, but, understand the big stage he was on, and he was just talking facts. And all his facts were right on. I'm commending him on that. So
will you be his campaign manager?
Absolutely. That's my guy. I mean, but yeah, so I can make sure you guys, if he can control you guys, then yeah, I accept that job. Absolutely. Because he is factual and he's a likable guy. He just gotta, women move men. So he got women behind. He got him and all these women. So he's definitely gonna be moved in the way y'all are. And all of y'all.
We also believe in individualism and individual freedom and our conservative.
All of y'all act like mama. Y'all all mama bears, and y'all just angry and mad and ain't gonna protect the baby. So yeah, I get it.
We're not angry nor mad.
All right, T.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yep. All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. So, I was supposed to say this in the beginning of the show, but I'm happy to have everybody on tonight. We haven't all been on for a while now, so it's good to see everybody, all 5 hosts. Again, join the conversation by leaving a comment on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We will check the comments periodically throughout the show. Also, subscribe to our social media so you can always know when we post new content. Check us out on the web at www.metroconservativemedia.com for up-to-date information. We are a necessary voice in news and entertainment. All right. And again, we are in a campaign right now for our YouTube page. So if you are not subscribed to our YouTube page, we are trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, December 31st. So please go on there and subscribe and tell your friends, family, put a YouTube page for your pet, have them all subscribe. All right. So we are moving right along to our rapid pop-off rapid fire round. So basically what it is, as you guys know, 30 seconds or less, I will give each co-host a question, and in 30 seconds or less, they provide an answer. All right. So tonight we are starting off with Shelly E. All right. So Michael Flynn, former national security advisor to President Trump, said this past weekend, if we are going to have one nation under God, which we must, we have to have one religion. One nation under God and one religion under God. Do you agree? Why or why not, Shelly?
Absolutely not. So no, I think I saw that, and I think Michael Flynn was totally wrong. As much as I support Michael Flynn, the conservative movement, but to have a state-mandated religion, no, we are America, the United States of America. We are not a Middle Eastern Islamic country. We have freedom of religion, our First Amendment. If we have one religion, that means we have to get rid of our First Amendment.
All right. Moving right along, next up is T. So we have Galentine's Day. Galentine's Day is February 13th. coming up shortly. What was previously an unknown and official holiday immediately skyrocketed in popularity, so much so that businesses have created this holiday, Galentine's Day, promotions in honor of the celebration. It's a holiday where girlfriends get together in juxtaposition to Valentine's Day, which focuses on romantic relationships. T, is Galentine's Day needed? Why or why not?
No, it's not needed. It's just women who don't have a man and they want to get together and complain about reasons that they don't have a man. And it's a waste of time. It's a waste. I mean, maybe it's commercialized because they want to try to make more money on top of the money that they're making on Valentine's Day, like the real holiday. But then mostly it's just women who just want to get and complain and talk about men and, and not be accountable for their own actions and the reasons that they're single in the first place. But it's unnecessary. And I mean, with girlfriends, just going to dinner or something, that's cool, but not to make an official holiday. That's stupid.
All right. So we are moving right along to Yana. So congressional Democrats sent a letter to the Biden administration urging the White House to mandate airlines to require that passengers show proof of full vaccination against COVID-19 or a negative COVID-19 test before flying domestically. Do you agree or disagree, and why?
Yeah, I don't know why they're so obsessed with vaccines. I mean, it's really an obsession. It should be a choice that an individual makes for themselves. It should not be mandated by the government, for sure. And especially since we're still learning about this vaccine, it's still in very early stages. So it's very unfair to force it on people when they're trying to go from place to place. And then, I'm sure they will do the same thing to everyone else, going to restaurants, going to the store, because how is that different from going into the airport or an airplane? So it's absolutely an overstep of their power.
All right. And lastly, we have Xandria. So, Xandria, Paula Patton, she is the ex-wife of Robin Thicke. He is a singer, R&B singer. She is the daughter of a white mother and a black father. But if you ask her how she identifies, she's very clear. She's black. She said in a Griot interview recently, "I find the term biracial offensive. It's a way for people to separate themselves from African Americans, a way of saying I'm better than that." What are your thoughts? Do you agree or disagree with this, saying it's best to choose one over the other and not say you're biracial?
I think it's ridiculous. I mean, that's the whole argument against critical race theory right now, is that when you, they're trying to make you choose one side or the other. Being biracial is not specific to being part white or being part black. It applies to all ethnicities. I'm multiracial, but like if you're a Latino and part Latino, part Asian, you're still biracial. Why are you trying to pick one side or the other? You should be embracing both of your cultures. When she says that, I kind of wonder, like, what's her relationship with her dad versus her mom? I don't know who. Oh, you said Robin Thicke, right? He's white, correct, right? And
she was married to Robin Thicke, so her mother is white and her father's black. She's actually very close to her mother.
Got it.
She's very close to her
white. She's a pretty girl. Like, I don't understand it's the same thing with Obama, right? Why did he say he's black when he's biracial, right? So I don't get it. I think people should, embrace both sides. I mean, she's a beautiful woman, and she's beautiful.
It makes it so confusing.
I mean, you are like it's
just one of those people, right? You don't have to worry about being confused.
It's funny because the left gets so upset about identifications, right? But one that is inclusive of multiple identifications upsets them all of a sudden. So I don't get it.
Well, Kamala Harris is all kind of, she's Indian one day and then she's black another day. So it's all, I guess whatever gives them more privilege at some time or another.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right. Well, audience, that was our pop off. So if you have a question that you'd like to hear answered by one of our co-hosts, email me at kj@metroconservativemedia.com. We will ask the co-host your question during our pop off round. All right. So we are moving right along to our next topic. Alan Walker. So Alan Walker is a professor at Old Dominion University. Alan, whose bio in experiences of trans scholars in criminology and criminal justice indicates the professor is queer and non-binary trans. Penned a recent book saying it's okay for adults to be attracted to children or minors and wants to take away the stigma of that attraction. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Here we go with that bull.
Yeah, so
Seriously, like
Go ahead,
Shelly.
Shelly.
Oh, I'm sorry. Professor Walker, this is nothing. This is not new. Again, this crap comes from academia and it filters down into the popular culture. I just was talking to some people. I posted a little segment that what we need to be doing, we need to be careful of the language. They're using this language about minor attracted people, and it sounds innocent and innocuous on the surface. But what it is a trying to normalize a perversion. Eventually, that's what it is. So this idea of making a separation between what a person is attracted to mentally or emotionally and what they actually do. Now, legally, that is right. If you have not acted out on your thoughts, then you have really not committed a crime. So, and you really don't know what people are thinking unless they act out on their thoughts. So we need to be on guard, because this is going to be sort of the slow boiling pot, where eventually they want to normalize it slowly but surely to where pedophilia, pederasty, and any other type of perversion is normalized, and our children are at increased risk.
And let me jump in, because since you brought up minor attracted people, I did forget to mention that is the name of this professor's book. It's A Long Dark Shadow, Minor Attracted People and Their Pursuit of Dignity. So she wants to have this term to replace pedophilia. She wants to have the term minor attracted people. Yana, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, this has been going on for a while, actually. There was a TED Talk at some point saying, and there was a woman doing a TED Talk saying that people who are attracted to minors, so pedophiles, are, I think she named it like something, we should not judge pedophiles or something like that, as long as they're not acting on their desires. And it started a while ago, and actually it all comes from, well, I have to say it comes from Marxism. And so it's been going on for so long. For example, there were communities like these utopian communities in America that wanted to destigmatize all types of sexual relations, and having relations with minors is also is destigmatized in their ideas. So it's really, we start with little things like that. First one type of deviancy is okay, then another one is okay, and now you can control your emotions or your feelings, and it's nothing is within your control. Like, that's what they're trying to tell people. And then we should not even judge someone who is thinking a certain way. No, yes, we can judge how a person thinks. Yes, you can control even your thoughts and your emotions. That is ridiculous. And the more they push it, they want to change culture, they want to change how people think, and they want to this inclusive environment that eventually we're just going to accept everything and all type of deviancy there is in the world.
Well, let me ask Xandria. So, do you think this is actually a continuation from homosexuality? We started out there, that was, coined as a deviance, a pervasion, and now it's, in mainstream society. Now we from homosexuality to transgenders, and now to transgenderism has become, or is trying to become normalized. Do you think all this is extending from that?
Perhaps. I mean, I think, look, I do think, I agree with her statement that people can't control who they're attracted to. I think there's probably truth in that, right? Why would somebody choose to be attracted to a minor, right? I don't think those things are choices, to be honest. But I think she's going too far. Why is she trying to replace the word pedophilia with, what is it, minor attraction, right? Like, she even states that she said in her article, I want to be extremely clear that child sexual abuse is never okay. Well, pedophilia stems from that. Like, if she's saying that that's not okay, well, then don't create a word that you think is okay to replace a word that you don't think is okay, right? That people's attractions are private things. They've always been private things, right? I don't understand the left sensationalizing everything. We don't need classes on this. If you are attracted to someone, I agree with what Shelly said, that legally, right, if you take action on it, that is where you are legally binded and in trouble, right? If somebody is thinking something that they can't control, but they don't act on it, then power to them. Right, I'm glad that they didn't act on it. But if they're like acting on their thoughts, well, then that is wrong. So
well, I think it's the first step. The thing is that acceptance of the idea that it's okay and it's something that you just innately have. That is a first step towards acting upon it.
Because I don't think it's okay, but I don't think it's okay.
Well, it's okay to even be that way, because in KJ asked about homosexuality and transgenderism, and the thing is that once we accept that something like that is okay, then the next step is eventually go for it.
Well,
and I just want to mention something interesting.
It is okay, but I think how far you go with what you allow is the problem, right? Like, I don't care if a man loves a man, I don't care. They should be happy. On the transgender part, if a man wants to become a woman or a woman wants to become a man, okay. But then when it's talking about, hey, should they be able to compete with somebody that is genetically different than them, right? That's a question.
Well, let me say this, T. So I want to ask you this, because this comes from something Xandria said. So if sexual desire is the equivalent of identity, and if to sexually desire minors is at the core of one's identity, then how can we stigmatize or otherwise suppress pedophiles if we recognize that other kinds of sexual minorities have civil rights? So again, this is this language. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I agree with that, with everyone said except Xandria, because I think the homosexuality, being sexually free to choose your sexual orientation, is the gateway to now where we are now, and then bestiality, that's going to be next. I mean, if it hasn't already, being attracted to animals, and so it's like Shelly said, it's a spirit of perversion, and it's inclusive to all of the LGBTQ, LMNOP, and now we have the MAP, minor attracted people, which, I mean, it's kind of like softening up the words, saying, we had indentured servants instead of slaves. Like, it's just putting the softness on it when it's hard. I'm a mother, and I would dare someone to be minor attracted people to my children. Like, if you're attracted to someone,
what if you had a child? What if you had a child that, as an adult, said, "Hey, mom, I find myself attracted to young people, right?
Then he
Like,
needs to stay away from children. He needs to stay away from children.
I agree with that. I agree with that. But is that
gay.
person inherently bad for not being able to control that? Yes, I agree. Stay away from children. 100%. You are in control of your actions. You are not in control necessarily.
So I just want to jump in for a second.
KJ, you're muted.
KJ, you're muted.
KJ, you're muted. KJ, you're muted.
KJ, you're muted.
I'm sorry. So we need to call it what it is. It's not a sexual orientation. It's not a sexual identification. It's a mental disorder. So
thank you.
All of those things are mental disorder.
Now we have taken away that classification of this stuff, and they're becoming. This is
like,
again.
I think it's
trying to normalize it.
I think it's stupid. Yeah, I do think it's stupid that they're classifying it, and I do think it's stupid that they're normalizing it and trying to make it mainstream. Okay, if there's a percent of people that are born attracted to young people, right? They're a minority. This isn't like, you know what I mean?
The problem with that, Xandria, is that just like let's
be real. We don't need to fight for rights for these people. They already have rights. Like, if they're not breaking the law, then we don't need to know who they're attracted to.
Yeah, as human beings, they have a right to get help for their condition. Absolutely. And I just want to mention something to tie into Shelly when she said that we should not have, I guess, was it a state religion? And that's an interesting topic, because I saw that John Adams actually said, one of our founding fathers, he said that our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other.
Right. He said these people, not a particular.
Yeah, I agree with you. But however, at the time, it was only Christians that were creating this country, so they weren't thinking that somebody else will enter here.
Wait a minute, I'm going to challenge you on that, because even as the founding fathers, even though they were Christians, they still did not implement Christianity as a state religion. So they even
not any particular. They were, because they were different denominations. They didn't want to have one denomination.
So they even restrained themselves.
Yeah. So this person who wrote this book about pedophiles, and I think it's a he. I'm going to call him a he. He has a lot of facial hair. So he is actually part of this neo-pagan revival, which is happening in America. And these are these people who are challenging the religious institutions in America, and they are bringing the pagan religion, which is what the Christian religion was trying to not allow to proliferate, and they're bringing that back. And one part of it is that unrestrained sexuality is part of this neo-pagan revival. And actually, this was happening even over 100 years ago in America. And when these people were creating these communities where they were completely, they didn't have any sexual restraints, eventually they were kicked out of entire states. That's actually how certain communities were, had to move across states and go into like the middle of America. And so that is my question. Like, what do we do with these people now when we don't want them in our community?
Well, first of all,
no, but the majority of people are agreeing with this. The majority of people, they want to see this freedom and this liberalism. Like, we're the anomalies here, where we're trying to hold on to what's natural and what's right. But they're the ones, we're fighting against them. So we're the ones that are going to have to leave.
Well, I think they're trying too hard to sensationalize.
This is like the gateway.
They're picking like 0.01% of people to fight for their rights, as if they didn't have rights in the beginning, right? And I agree with you, Yana. I would say it is more of a mental illness, right? All I'm saying is I don't know scientifically, right, if somebody can control initially their attractions. I don't know. And I think it's more important that somebody doesn't act, right, in a wrong way on that. Then if they think about it silently in their head, they should stay away from kids. But I'm just saying, if they're, you know what I mean? if they
Well,
if
let
they're
me
born
ask you
that
this,
way, I don't know.
Alexandria. Sexual attraction is sort of like a craving. So there are certain things that we as humans crave. If I were someone who started craving paper, like there are people
Right, it's a
who have
mental illness.
there are people who have mental conditions
But
where
they're
they
not
feel
a
like they have to eat
criminal for it.
pins or
Yeah,
marbles
I know.
or
It's
things
called
like
pica. It's called
right.
pica.
I
Okay.
agree with that.
So
I agree
these
with
are
that.
all mental health issues, and
I
we
agree with
used
that.
to classify all this stuff as
and treat it.
mental health issues. It's just within the last 20 years or so that we have now declassified this stuff, and now it's supposed to be just our attraction or our
But that's what I'm
identification.
saying. I'm saying it
But,
shouldn't. I agree. It is a mental illness, and people should. That's why I'm saying
but you
it's
just
not.
said you
They're not
don't know if
criminals for
you
having
don't
those
know if
illnesses.
attraction. Right. You just
Right.
said though the opposite.
No,
No,
well,
I said they are
legally,
not. I'm saying we can't criminalize them for having certain attractions. I
can't.
agree
That's
that
the
they have
conundrum
a
we're in.
mental illness, and I don't think
it's not
sensationalize
legal
it and make them
to
more. So
it's
Well,
not
anybody
legal
who
to
said
molest children.
Another thing to say about it is that,
Well-
do you guys agree that it could be something learned? So if anyone who has a certain behavior and they're saying, well, that's just how I feel and that's just what that's how I express myself, and they will talk about it to some people, let's say to other adults, because now it's destigmatized. So if I don't act upon it, I can talk about it. This is part of me. So, but then what if some person might get influenced by that, and then they will end up feeling the same way, because something about sexuality and
That's how I feel about LGBT.
I agree with that. There are trends,
so
right?
what,
There
so
are
do we have to
people
draw
that
the line?
we
We
have
have to draw
a,
the
so
line
what they're
between
trying to
actions
do
and thought.
is
We
they
have to draw
want
the
them to
line
be
between
talking
actions and
about
thought.
it.
1 second.
right.
We
I
have
agree
to
with
draw the
what
line
she's
between actions and thoughts, right? I mean, I think that's number one. What I see as also a problem is that we, like KJ said, these things used to be considered mental illnesses, but now even the therapists are co-signing these problems to make them normal. So even if someone had these thoughts and was seeking help, many of the therapists are now co-opted to the left, and they don't even see it as a problem themselves. So that conflates the problem. So we,
And
as
if
much
A lot of
behavior
times,
spreads, this
a lot of
behavior
times,
will spread. The more you destigmatize it, it will spread.
Well, we have to
a
end
lot
it
of
on
times,
there.
the minor attracted people are kind of the reasons that we have these mental issues, because they've been molested. They've had some issues with their uncles or cousins or somebody who's molested them, and now they've turned into this sexually free person. And here we are, and it's a cycle now. Now we got going back to minor attracted people who, the people who are, maybe a part of the LGBT. In some cases, they're the ones that have chosen to live this lifestyle of being gay or whatever, because it's a cycle now.
Well, there are trends people adopt, right? And I always think that's weird. Like, I do think that's wrong when you're trying, right? You're not LGBT, but all of a sudden you just are because it's popular and you want to test
That's how it starts.
You're not.
That's how it starts. I mean, anybody who has lived through the last 20 years knows that sexual identity and the law is a slippery slope. So, it's my opinion this needs to be crushed right now,
Right now.
without apology. So, we'll continue to follow this story. One good thing about this is this professor has been put on administrative leave. So she I think she's a biological woman. But she identifies as trans-binary. But
Whatever
the
that
professor
means.
has been
She's
put on
just
leave.
confused. Like and people that are that confused and then they write other confusing things, they just expand that confusion.
Exactly.
And here we are.
Around.
But we will continue to follow this story and keep you all updated. So, again, join the conversation by leaving a comment on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We will check the comments periodically throughout the show. Also, subscribe. We are trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and we need your help. Share, and subscribe if you have not subscribed already to our YouTube. Check us out. YouTube is at Metro Conservative Media. So check us out there. Also on the web at the same name, www.metroconservativemedia.com for up-to-date information. I want to check over to the comments to see what we have here because we haven't checked yet today. So we have Giovanni Patterson. Everything has been reimagined. So we know that to be true. So I think someone said during our conversation, they're trying to change the definitions and the words, and then the culture changes, and then it turns into laws. So we really have to be vigilant about this. I mean, there used to be a time where I was kind of lax and was like, oh, we'll live and let live. No more. We take a stand. This needs to stop.
They want our children.
Right?
They want our children. They're coming for our children.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of what needs to stop, I'm moving right on to our Declare It a Crisis Baltimore campaign. Again, we have, Plus joined the conversation. He says, not true, T. I don't know what that is.
He's picking with T.
He's mad.
Yeah. Okay, but we are moving right
He's not talking about a minor attractive person, and what she said is not true. That they are not after our children. Yes, they are.
Yes, they are, and it's the Democrat Party where it's the most
confused. He's a part of the confused people too.
Okay. So we are at Declare It a Crisis Baltimore. So today this is our campaign to raise awareness about shootings, homicides of children or youth in Baltimore City. Today we are talking about Kendall Scott, found on September 10th at 2:54 p.m. Kendall was only 18 years old, shot. So again, this is a crisis. We want to raise awareness about this. Hashtag Declare It a Crisis Baltimore and post on your social media. And then today we just had some awful news. Shelly, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, unfortunately, sadly, today, a 5-year-old Nevaeh Anderson was found dead, and preliminarily, her death is being investigated as a murder and possibly from child abuse. So that was the preliminary, and unfortunately, again, Nevaeh makes the 300th murder in Baltimore City as of today. A 5-year-old. We have this gruesome death and a gruesome statistic.
Yes, indeed.
300 children.
What people should focus on is protecting children from people like that, and they focus on protecting the pedophiles right now, the destigmatizing pedophiles, and we have children that are being murdered and abused.
Yep.
That leads us right into our next topic, Marilyn Mosby. So she is in the news again for ethical issues. Going back nearly 2 years, Marilyn Mosby has said her office keeps a list of police officers who should not be called to testify in criminal trials, claiming at one point there was about 305 officers whose integrity had been called to question. But after being sued over the refusal to disclose the names and losing in a court of special appeals, she's finally released the names, and it's 91 officers. And then out of that 91, I believe it was about 26 who actually remain on active duty. So the rest of them have left the force. She continues to run an office that is disorderly, poorly managed, and plainly stated, shady. So I want your guys' thoughts on this. Mm-hmm.
Just to be clear, so there are these officers do not call for what exactly?
To testify in court, because apparently they have some kind of maybe ethical or corruption cases that they were being investigated for previously. So they're not credible witnesses in court.
So it's a likely chance that the people will get off if they call these
or not get off
people on the
because
job.
they cannot testify. So they're stuck in the limbo.
Right.
Like they're waiting for trial, but the police officer is not allowed to even be in court.
So they may never even go to court, or because they could be thrown out because of the actions of the police are not credible.
Right. And in the
So
past,
what's the justification?
well, in the past, past SOAs have always, they had a list like this, but they would let their state's attorneys in the office know, not to call these police officers in these types of cases, because they know if you did call them, then it would be a high likelihood that your case would be put in jeopardy. But she never even told the office about this list. They found out once the public found out, when she lost the case and was met and had to bring this information forward. So she kind of misled the public on that. And then she didn't tell, so now we have a situation where she's withholding the information, and it could interfere in ongoing cases.
Yeah. But I think that I just thought about this after reading that article and overnight. I think that Marilyn Mosby is using this list as a cover for her inadequacy and inefficiency, so that she can say, well, I didn't prosecute case X, or I didn't arrest, person Y, because this particular cop on this list was involved in this case. So therefore, it gives her a semi or seemingly legitimate cover to not even bring this person to trial or to court. And that would also pad her numbers about keeping people out of the system, or out of the hairs of interacting with police. I know it sounds kind of convoluted.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, that's what they're trying to do, is not to prosecute certain crimes. And yeah, I totally agree with that. That makes perfect sense.
I think they need to do an investigation into all of it. Like, all the people on the list, right? Look at the different reasons why they're saying they're on that list, right? Qualify whether those reasons are legitimate or not legitimate. And then, to your point, Shelly, they need to then take that and do an investigation into whether it is a cover-up or whether it's legitimate. And then, why is this so dysfunctional?
Well, and it was only 26 actually that ended up being legitimate cases of corrupt, some sort of ethical violation. And originally she said it was 305, but they did look into it. And actually, out of all of those active people, active police officers, only 26, but she was not calling, or she said do not call, over 300 people.
Right. Well, the statement from Baltimore police indicates that they also had just recently found out, when everyone else, the public, found out, and they removed those officers from positions where they were involved in cases and making arrests. But again, this woman has controversy after controversy surrounding her. I mean, again, with the numbers, like you mentioned, Shelly. So, she's back in, I think it was August, she was touting her record, while most critics pointed out about her office that she had just had 7 homicide convictions, and where we're approaching now today 300 murders. So, and this is for the 7th straight year. This was in August where this came out. So 7 homicide convictions in a city that's experiencing over 300 plus murders on an annual basis is laughable. And then this is all according to the Heritage Foundation.
And
so
we had Press Jones saying that people in power in Baltimore, they're not helping regular Baltimoreans. So she also falls into that category, because actually the public defender's office said that there were 800 pending cases that they were not able to address because of these people that were put on do not call. These police officers, they were put on a not call list. And so 800 people that are waiting to find out what their case is going to be was the result. And these are Baltimoreans.
Yeah, it's crazy. Year to date, there have been 96 homicide indictments. So that means people charged with murder and only 7 convictions.
Right.
So that's like a 7% conviction rate. That's
Almost.
crazy.
Yeah. So again, this is why
if these officers can't
get people to
even.
read.
Oh, I think you're frozen, T.
If these officers can't even, you can't call them, then why are they even on the force? Like, what's their job? What are they doing? In the meantime,
Well,
are they still on the streets? Or, I mean, what are they doing?
Well, first of all, she doesn't have the personnel power to remove officers. Okay, so this was an internal list that the state's attorney's office had, while Marilyn Mosby had in her office. So she doesn't have the power to remove or hire police officers. Which is why I think this was a cover for her inefficiency. And those people who are arrested, or maybe they're waiting in jail, they're going to be released because they have 180 days is the law that they have to have their case adjudicated or at least have a trial date set by law. They're going to be released. And where are they going to come? Back on the streets in Baltimore City. By the end of December, we may very well be at 350 murders.
Yeah, reimagine policing. But again, I mean, we go back to the Mosby, Marilyn Mosby, and it's something that Roya Hana said a couple of weeks ago when she was on the show. She doesn't want to try cases, and the one she tries, she's losing. So again, this woman we have in office as the state's attorney is terrible at trying cases. And she's disorderly. She won't communicate correctly with her office, with the public. It's just a disaster. And then you look at around the country, you have these state's attorneys, these rogue prosecutors that we've talked about in the past, in places like Chicago, St. Louis. And again, the conviction rates for those prosecutors are very low. They're lower than their predecessors' conviction rates.
Look at where the riots have taken place over the last year or so. Look at where the crime is increased or exponential. And I will guarantee you, in 9 out of 10 cases, if not 10 out of 10, they are rogue prosecutors. They're on the left. They have a D after their name. I bet it would come out clear. 10 out of 10. I'm going to say 9 out of 10. I'm going to save some room for humility, but 10 out of 10.
So again, I mean, this reimagining, this, rewording, everything they're trying to do is not working. It is not working.
Again, people are losing over that. We're brewing criminality. We have people walking into businesses and just taking things because it's not being there were no arrests on that, and so regular people, business owners are suffering.
I think it's the responsibility, in this next election cycle, for conservatives to really change the game, to start literally listing out these things, putting it in front of people's faces, and being like, look, it's time for a complete overhaul of everybody in that local government. I mean, everything is a mess, and everything is just tied together in different ways, and they can never move forward. They literally have to change the way they're doing everything.
No more equity.
If they want to see a change, right? And yeah, at the end of the day, this notion of equity that they're pushing, I'm all about diversity. I'm all about equality of opportunity. But you don't get anywhere when you're saying, okay, we want everybody to end up at this predetermined outcome for, everybody needs to reach this point. Not everybody even wants to reach that point.
They want to change statistics. They're playing with statistics. They don't want to see crime levels going up in cities like Baltimore.
No, they're playing with our lives. They're playing with our lives. That's what they're playing with. They don't care if we're all equally dead. To them, they've met their goal. Even if we're equally dead, that's their goal. That's their version of equity.
Well, I mean, on that note, we'll end it there. I mean, like you said, with this idea of equity, it's not about equality of opportunity is pushing everyone and then just letting them go. Equity is pushing and then taking from certain people. And so I don't understand why people would want that.
Equity is everybody starting at the same position and being able to go wherever they need to go. But
yeah, but how can you have everyone start at the same position when there are certain things about people where some people are just going to be automatically at a higher position than others? So in essence, you have to take away from those people who are innately ahead.
But for all of their preachers of look, the whole idea of equity, especially in the Baltimore City area, is that they are saying, you know, equity will help Black Americans, right? It's not. There are policies that are pushing these equity things. They're not doing anything for the Black community. So clearly it's just all not working.
Well, again, we will continue to follow these stories and bring them to you. So this does bring us to the end of the show. Thanks for watching. Continue the conversation by checking us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and subscribe. That way you get up-to-the-minute content when we post, and we appreciate the support. A reminder, our goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year on YouTube. So hurry over there, tell your friends to hit that like button, hit the notifications button, and subscribe. Not only will it assist us and we appreciate the support, but it makes our voice that much stronger. We are a necessary voice in news and entertainment. Also, check us out on the web, www.metroconservativemedia.com. We look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, count your blessings and live a life of purpose. Good night.
Bye, y'all.